Hey, welcome everyone to React Virtual Conference. The last session was very informative. I was really into, like rather than preparing myself, I was getting into seeing details of what how the program was being written. So thanks for that, and thanks for joining us again. Yeah, a little bit of introduction myself. I think I mean, Simon has already played the video, so you already know. But just to conclude, these are some of my social handles through which, if you want to connect with me. Okay, so today's session is about useful npm React libraries in SPFX, right? So let's start with npm. Okay, I'll just take maybe a quick couple of minutes to see what npm is about. So most of us would already know it is basically world's largest software registry. It's an open source, and most of the packages which are available in the npm are free. When I say most of this, is I mean there are many which are free. There are some paid also, but still many of the free ones are the one which are very much useful. It is a library to share and borrow packages. Okay, and the npm consists of basically three components, like the website, the command line interface, and the registry. So the website is the one from where we can basically go and search for the packages which are available. And then there is a command line interface which works as a part of our node.js installation, through which we can install the npm packages using npm install. And then there is the registry, which is basically the database where all the packages which are being available freely are hosted somewhere at a particular server, and from where it gets downloaded to our local machine, right? So that's about npm. And now the second thing is, we are here for React, right? So what is React basically? It is a JavaScript library, as we all know. It is kind of it is a front end framework. Okay, and it is programmably very simple, and it performs very better. The reason being, the architecture behind the library which has been created. Uh, the it what it does is basically, it creates a virtual DOM in our actual DOM. And what it does is, any changes which we want to make, it first makes to the virtual DOM. Okay, and doesn't reload the whole actual DOM, HTML DOM, and which makes it very faster than the regular DOM object. So there would be people who would be using jQueries and everything, and we know that to change something on the UI, what we do is we basically find that particular DOM element using jQuery, and using IDs or maybe CSS class name, and then we basically change the DOM the way we wanted to do it. Okay, and React make it organized, it's structured, and it also, kind of, it's a one-way reactive data flow. It means that once we create states along with the classes which we create, and once we change the state, it automatically would re-render the DOM, and it will send the updated HTML content to the user, right? And we can consider React as a V in our MVC. So if anybody who follows MVC pattern, like model view controller, so we can use V as React as a view in that particular design pattern, right? Moving ahead, SharePoint framework. Okay, this might be new to some of the people who are not from the SharePoint background, but just to give a background on, what this framework is about. This is how we basically do the modern client-side development on, or customization on the SharePoint, right? And it is very lightweight, and it is backward compatible. It means the web part which we develop works with the classic experience also. And it is again open source, and it supports all the basic JavaScript frameworks which we have, right? And on top of it, we can use graph APIs, LOB system, cloud services. Like, for example, if you have your own APIs which you can call, and which you can create an web part, and which you can deploy it into a SharePoint page. These are just the open source tooling in the SharePoint framework. Okay, I wanted to just quickly highlight this because it supports all the modern open source tooling, right? For the build process, it supports Yeoman, Gulp, Node.js, and npm. So which is why we are here for today. System.js, Webpack, Sass, and TypeScript. Okay, in the web framework, it supports React. Okay, which again, which would be would be the focus of our session today. Angular, Knockout, jQuery, and any other front end frameworks which you can have, that you can use into SharePoint framework. And these are some of the code editors like Visual Studio Code, Atom, through which you can develop your SharePoint framework. I won't be going much detail into this, but considering though the session title says using npm library in SPFX, it not necessarily means that you can only use these libraries in SPFX. Okay. Oh, because this is open source and this is on the npm package manager, all the libraries can be used in any react based application where you are using it as a front end. Okay. And what I have focused is, I have focused on mostly the libraries which are kind of allow us to build an user interface, so that for example, we don't have to create that particular component from the scratch, and we can reuse it what is available from in the npm package. Okay. This is just an server tool side comparison for SPFX. Like previously we were developing using IIS and .NET. Now we have Node.js. We were having NuGet. Now we have npm. Previously we was having MS Build. Now we are using Gulp. And we were coding in C#. Now we can code in TypeScript. And there were Visual Studio project templates. Now we can use Visual Studio Code and Yeoman generator to create different types of solutions. Okay, now why this topic, right? Okay, so the idea behind this topic is to get to know the useful packages which are available readily as a part of open source. Okay. And which we can use in our react based application, right? Which will save time, like developing everything from the scratch. Okay, why do we want to reinvent the wheel if something is already available? Okay, so we can focus on our business logic. Okay, and also kind of support the community by using it, and if you have any feedback you can share with the developer, and they might be able to kind of fix it also. And if something you think might be a component which you might have developed as a part of your projects, and which you think can be added to npm package, certainly you can do that, so you can be part of that community also, right? So moving ahead, general usage of any npm package, right? I just wanted to quick highlight it, so for the people who might be new to this topic or anything, what happens is, any package which we have, we install it, right? Then we import it in the component file. Then we add that component to the render method, so that the we can use that component in the ux, right? And we set the properties for the configuration. So there might be different configurations properties which would be available as a part of that particular package, which we can use, and which we can basically customize it the way the developer has intended us to do, right? Moving ahead, let's start with the components, right? First of all, I would like to explain react tab. Okay. This, any application which we have, okay, one way or another there would be an business case where we might have to create tabs, right? Okay. And what if you want to what if you want to create it and in a react based application? So this is one of the library which I have found, which is very useful and easy implementation, right? There are certain features, like it is mobile friendly, so you don't need to worry about creating running that particular tab into mobile. It will automatically basically it will automatically render based on the what the screen look like. And there are 4 different components within the react tab. One would be tabs, tab list, tab, and tab panel. Okay. I'll explain this once I'll walk through the code. And the other feature is there is custom styling. So it doesn't mean that what you see on the right hand side, the screenshot is there, that's what you have to use, right? You always have an option to basically customize the look and feel of the tab which is looking. You can change the colors, you can change the background colors, hover colors, and everything, and everything is possible, right? And another important feature which I would like to highlight is the on select event handler. Why I think is this is very useful. For example, if we are creating a dashboard wherein we are displaying, for example, uh, different views, like my request and all request, and my approval, my pending task, for example. Okay, why do we want to load all the data at once when the page loads, right? What we wanted to do is we wanted to load when only when the user clicks on it, right? So in this case, what we can do is basically, we can use this on select event handler, and on click of the tab we can actually get the data and then bind it rather than binding it on the page load. Okay, so this is the first component which I would like to highlight, and what I would like to do is basically show you how this component can be used in a SPFX web part. But as I said, because SPFX is again supporting all the open source tooling, okay, it is merely like using the same thing in the React application also. Okay, so going to the code, first let me show you how the tabs looks like. Okay, so if you see, this is a SharePoint Framework local workbench from where we can add the web part, and this is the web part which I have created, which is specifically tab web part. And these are the tabs which we have created. Like, I just wanted to highlight that we can have sub tab within a tab. Like, for example, the Simpson is one tab, and within that there are different tabs, sub tabs which we have created, and which works pretty much the way way we have added the data to, right? And then there is a second tab, and the second tab also can have its sub tabs, right? So this is pretty easy to implement in a way wherein as a part of my web part, what I will get a component. Okay, so anybody who is familiar with React would know that this is basically a React component itself. Okay, and where we have render method, right? And any React component which you do always would have a render method. That is where we would be writing our HTML to build the UI.
Siddharth, sorry to interrupt, but can you just zoom it? That people
Sure.
have- Press Control plus plus helps.
Yeah, this will help. Yep.
Yeah, if you can move, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. No problem. Okay, so if you see here in the render method, the first component is tab, right? And then we have a tab list which we use, and wherein we mention two main tabs which are there on the top, like the Simpsons and Faturma. And then there are tab panels. So ideally, there is no association as such, like wherein we can say that this tab panel content goes to this tab. So what it does is it basically is based on the index. So the 0th index is the Simpsons, and wherein there would be two tab panels for each of the tab which we have, right? So for both the tabs we have tab panel, and within the first tab panel again we are creating a new tab because we wanted to create sub tabs within each, right? And these are the tab list with are the sub tabs within each. Okay, and then within that tab list we are having the tab panel where we are actually putting the content like paragraph and the image and anything. So consider your content goes here, okay, within your tab panel. It can, in my example, it is a again I'm creating a tabs, but it can be any content, any React component, or any HTML which you would like to do. Okay, so this is about tab component, and this is the link, okay, which you can use and basically go and see what are the different customization options which you have. Like, for example, if I just okay, so this is the documentation of the React tab. Okay, and if you see, what we do is we first install it, okay, using npm install command. Okay, and then the basic example says you import it first. Now, what are the components you wanted to install? You install it first, and then what you do is, just a moment, Simon. Yeah, my kids are here. Okay, so this is how you basically import it. Okay, and then these are the best examples on how do you use the tabs, right, the way I have shown. And then these are the different APIs which are available. Okay, like example, the different customization or the options which you see. So basically, this would be the general idea of any npm package which we will use, right? What we do is we follow the documentation, the documentation would have different ways of how do we customize and use that particular npm package. And then if there are, the good thing about an open source technology again is, like if you go to the GitHub, there would be issue list where you can actually raise an issue, and if the developer is, active in maintaining that particular repo, they would be able to solve it also. Okay, so moving ahead, I'll go to second one. Okay, this is very interesting, React Canvas signature, right? Now consider a scenario wherein you are building a form, and what you want to get is you wanted to get input from the user, and then you want them to basically sign it, right? In most of the case, this signature works with documents. Like there are commercial products available like DocuSigns and everything, where we can actually build a solution around creating e-signature within our document as a part of our business process, right? But they are paid. Okay, I'm not sure whether there are any freely available. There might be some, but there would be some limitation. Okay, but what if your use case is pretty simple, right? You wanted to just maybe create an travel request system, and just as a part of the audit policy, you want them to, once they raise a request, you want to just get the signature, right? And you can use this kind of this library as such, and you can get the signature on the web. Okay, and this canvas, it would be an HTML based canvas. It will sign it, and you can use this and store it somewhere, so that you know that the signature has been been added by the user as a when they have fill up the form, right? So about features about this particular library, it is basically wrapper around JS library signature pad. Okay, so this is the actual npm library, but some other developer has created a wrapper so that it can be easily used in our react based project. It is HTML5 and canvas based. There are options to export signature to PNG, JPG, and SVG. So once we get this signature, right, what we can do is we can export it and we can save it in these 3 different format. And there are options to load canvas from base 64. So when I say option to load canvas from base 64, why this is important? Considering an edit scenario, right? And once user has already filled the form, but you wanted them to for an approver or for themselves to see the edit or view what data they have entered, right? So in that case, the signature is already stored somewhere. What you wanted to do is you wanted to get the signature as a part of base 64 and provide it to the component, and the canvas would basically load the pre-filled signature. Okay, and then you also have to change the pen color. Like for example, you want black, red, or anything. Like there might be requirements wherein you ask signature particularly in black format or in red format or in blue format, blue color for example. So that can be used, right? So let's see a quick demo of how this work. So what I did is to show all other components, right, which we are going to see in the session here. I have created a main web part, which would be basically a tab web part, and then all the components are loaded as a part of tab, right? So just to make sure that I wanted to highlight the idea wherein that it's not that we can use individual React libraries individual only. What we can do is we can club different libraries and components which are there, and we can build a solution around it, so that each components individually will work on its own, plus it can be work combined as a solution, right? So if you see here, I have created tabs, which is the tab component which I have used, and then I have created 6 tabs for each of the components which we are going to check next, and each of the component is loaded as a part of tab panel. Right, so let me show you a quick example of how signature works here. Like for example, if I say take this signature, it would be loaded, and once I click on trim, what it does is it will remove the extra space which we have, and it will give us a base 64 image. And what I'm doing, I'm using that base 64 image and just displaying it here. Okay, now this can be extended by wherein using this base 64, we can save it in the database, in a SharePoint list, in a document library, or maybe in a custom database based on your requirement, wherever you wanted to do, right? How do we use this? So if we see, the usage is pretty simple here. Again, I'll open the signature component file. Okay, in the render method, first thing is we would be importing the library where we wanted to use it, right? And then we would be using this particular format, signature canvas. We are specifying the plain color to red. We are specifying the background color, and we are specifying the canvas property to 300, 200, and the class name. Okay, now all these properties which we are passing, right, that can be found in the documentation itself. So we don't need to worry about, like, how do I remember everything. What you need to do is you just need to go to the documentation of a particular library, see what are the options available, and something might fit your requirement, what you wanted to do, right? And for this particular case, what I'm doing, as I said, once we click on trim, right, okay, I'm calling this method trim, and there is a method which is available as a part of our library, which says get trimmed canvas, and which says, to data url. It means we specify in which format you want the image to be. In this case it is png, and we are just setting the state, to the base64 to this particular state object trim data url, and then that trim data url is being rendered as a part of our image tag. So that's just rendering it in the ui. Correct. So this is pretty much about the signature component. Okay, again, as I said, there are different options which are available, which we can go and see into the documentation and see what all things are possible and what all things we can do with this particular library. So I find it very interesting, and maybe a free solution for something wherein I have really implemented it for a couple of customers, where they wanted them to basically get the signature, so that the user who is actually requesting would feel that actually I'm signing into something, rather than just submitting the data as a part of my request, like travel request or expense request or something which we are doing, right? Okay, so moving on, the third one, custom scroll bar. Okay, so again, I feel like why this is important, like nowadays, we know that every website would have a landing page, right? And the landing page would have too many contents which we will be using. Like in a single page application, there will be too many contents, right? Now what would happen is, if you're developing a full web page and you want a particular paragraph or a particular content to be as a part of your page, but you don't want it to be using all the space, right? So what we want to do is we wanted to basically enable scroll within that particular component, right? So yeah, definitely there are by using custom css that is possible. Okay, it's that it's not possible. The only thing is this one gives us a pretty good look and feel, plus it is kind of fully customizable, and it also supports mobile device. Sometimes what happens is, once you are doing something custom using css, you might also have to take care of how it will render in the mobile device and everything, right? So this gives an basically an added advantage on by using this particular scroll bar. Okay, again, it is fully customizable. Okay, we can auto hide. It means it will only come when the content cross that particular height of the container of the html. There is no extra style sheet required, and it is well tested. Okay, and well been used some at many places, right? So let's see a quick demo of this. So if I click on scroll bar, if you see the second component which I have loaded as a part of tab, and this is how the scroll bar would looks like, right? So it's pretty good in terms of how the out of the box scroll bar looks like. Okay, and you consider, like, we creating this particular type of component at different pages in the part, and then can be basically used, the space can be utilized more efficiently, right? So yeah, so this is the scroll bar component. Let's quickly see how we can use this. So again, I have a scroll bar component here. I'll just minimize little bit, but this is pretty much very easy to use. First thing is you import it. Okay, and whatever content you wanted to kind of wrap around the scroll bar, you put it be inside the scroll bar component. Okay, and you specify the width and the height of the scroll bar. And once you do that, what will happen is any content which is within the scroll bar, okay, it can be paragraph, html, form, or anything, it will basically wrap within that particular part of the section of the web page, right? So again, this is pretty much very simple to use, but I think it is very effective, like considering this kind of library is available and we can easily build it. Okay, I personally like this kind of libraries because I'm not more into CSS. I always fear like CSS is something which I cannot do it quickly. Okay, I would need some UI developers help. But if we have this kind of components, what we can at least do is independently, we as a backend developer also would be able to use these front end libraries easily and build solutions effectively. Okay, moving ahead to third one, grid gallery. Okay, now this again is pretty much would be a basic requirement on displaying your images in the grid, right? And this can be for a website which is public facing website, where you are which is content driven website, or it might be also useful wherein you wanted to display basically different images which you are capturing as a part of your application, right? And what if you wanted to display this kind of gallery like this, right? And this is pretty cool in terms of what features it provides. Like for example, it is inspired by Google Photos, so if you can see that look and feel is more like Google Photos. And the good thing about is, depending on the actual height and the width of the image, okay, it actually kind of justifies itself. Like for example, this one is a vertical image, right? So it justifies and put it somewhere. The all other images are long enough. So this is pretty good in terms of, again, utilizing the space effectively within your web page, right? And then you have then with the select images are selectable. It means you can basically select the image. So if you see here the blue icon which says these are the selectable images, we can have custom overlay text. It means that once you hover over it, you can also display text on the image, right? Then you can also give thumbnail captions. Okay, and again, it is mobile friendly. Okay, most of the libraries which we are seeing would be mobile friendly, because that's when the added advantages, right? We don't have to take care of everything from our own, right? And again, if we go to the documentation, I have mentioned this URL here. To save us time, I will not go through the documentation, but if you just know that this something similar exists, you can always go and Google it, and you can see how you can customize it, right? Let's see a quick demo. So this is the grid gallery. Okay, if you see, this is selectable. I might have made it non-selectable, but you can see ocean and people. It means that these are the overlay text which you can basically add as a part of your gallery also, right? In terms of implementation, I might be repetitive, but again, you import the actual component, okay, and you just create a gallery component. Okay, you see how easy this is. The only thing which you are giving is the array of the images, right? So you have to make sure that right now what I'm doing, I'm just putting 3 static images by assigning src, thumbnail, and the width and the height and everything, right? Now what you can do is basically you can also get this images from the database, create the required object, and just pass it to the gallery image, and it will it will take care of rendering it. Okay, moving ahead, next, React draft, what you see, what you get editor. Okay, now you might have, as a web developer or as a business application, we might have seen there are two there would be many requirements where we would be needing similar kind of HTML editor as a part of our solution, right? Now this again, there are pretty much many available. Okay, why I want to highlight this is because this is React based. It means it is easily for the React developers, it is easily available, and also easily customizable, and it supports all the TypeScript based customization which we wanted to do. Okay, so if you see, these are the features. There is a long list of feature. This is very popular again. Now if you, like for example, you can show and hide different controls which are available. Okay, and you can change the order of the controls. Like for example, if you wanted to keep the bold, italic, underline at the last, because that might not be very much important to the user, you can always do that. And then you can also create custom control to the toolbar. So not only the out of the box controls which you see, like indentation, adding hyperlinks, the emojis, you can also create a custom control and then build something on top of it, right? Like for example, if you wanted to get hyperlink and just add it here, then you can create a custom component which would be a pop-up kind of thing, build it, add to the user, and then put it in the editor itself, right? Then there are choices of 150 emojis. There are support for mentions, hashtag. There is support for uploading and adding images also. So pretty much all of the HTML editor features are available here. Okay, let's quickly see the demo again. So if you see here, this is the demo, right? And what you can do is you can add it. You can also use certain shortcut, like for example I use Control B to bold it, right? And then you can add hyperlink, you can give the link and the title, the title and the link, and you can also specify whether you want to open it in the new window or everything. So why would you need this? Like for example, you are building a form and you want the end user to basically add data in the HTML, right? And being a SharePoint developer, I would know that this is useful many times, because what happens is there is a column type which is HTML, which is available in SharePoint, and where we are building custom forms, but we want user to basically use a rich text editor so that they can provide the formatted content, and then which we can use to display it wherever we need it. Okay, so again let's see the usage. So this is draft. Okay, again very simple usage. The only thing is we are importing the actual component, and we are also importing the CSS. Okay, some of the libraries would require you to import the CSS. The reason being it might be not directly available. Okay, and or it might be directly clashing with the other ones if default you are not available, if you are not specifying it, right? And you just have to say editor, and you have to say wrapper class and everything. Okay, now in terms of customization, how to read the HTML content and everything, if you go to the documentation, there are options like on blur, on focus, and everything, through which we would be able to get the content also, and which we can use as an HTML and store it somewhere in the database, right? And also there are options to pre-populate, like again the scenario wherein it's not just about adding the content, right? You might want to edit the content, edit form, you might want to create an edit form where you want to preload the HTML which is already there, so you just have to give it as an input. Okay, so this is the what you see, what you get editor, rich editor with the name React Draft. And again you can see, refer it from the official documentation of the library. Okay, then accessible accordion. Okay, now I'm pretty sure this would be one of the basic requirement of getting accordion done, right? Okay, and there are lots of accordions available, I would say. Okay, why again I would highlight this is based on React. Okay, it means it can be easily used on the React based project. Okay, and the styling is customizable, it means we can customize the styling. There are options to basically choose whether we wanted to only allow single accordion to be expanded, or we wanted multiple to be expanded. Plus there are options to also to choose which particular accordion should be expand collapse by default. Then there is on change event handle, which is again very important. As I said, until you have a specific content which is very less, and you are that should be okay. But what if you wanted to dynamically get data once the user clicks on it, right? Then pretty much this would be very much useful. There is an option to disable particular item also. If, for example, we can disable that this particular item cannot be expanded, for example, right? So I would always consider accordion maybe as an vertical tab also, right? Like it's not just about creating FAQs or something using accordion. You can also build a form which looks vertically, which would look like an tab, and on click of every tab on the right hand side you are specifically add loading different component, like for example create new form, or my request, or my pending task, etc., right? Then it also supports all the desktop and mobile browsers. So let's see implementation again. I know I'm running fast, but that was the idea. Okay, just to get used to all this library, and so that that this kind of components are available which can be readily used rather than building something from the scratch. Okay, so these are the three accordions, like what is SPFX, what is React. Okay, the header and the actual content, right? Now if I go to the implementation, I'll say go to accordion, right? I will import all the components which would be used. Okay, so how do you know that you have to create use a specific format, like for example, you start with accordion, then within accordion you need accordion item. All is available in that documentation. You just have to follow it and you will understand what every component means. Like for example, here if you see, accordion is the base tag. Within accordion there is accordion item. It means there would be, 3 accordion items for each of the accordion item which we have seen as a part of our demo. And then there is an accordion heading. Okay, wherein you have to specify accordion item button. Frankly, I'm not sure whether this would be required or directly we can put it, but as per the documentation they were mentioning that this accordion item button is there. Okay, and then there is accordion item panel, which is basically the content for that particular accordion. So now within this, again, as I said, you can have HTML, you can have a different React component, or you can use any other library components which is available. Okay, so possibilities are endless, right? Moving ahead, next, material table. Okay, again a very useful one. Okay, like for example, we have seen in the last session, right, that Swami was using a tabular kind of format to display the books, right? And this is pretty much a requirement for every other projects, which if you are developing something, which is kind of getting data from the database, displaying and performing the CRUD operation exactly, right? So what happens in this, for this kind of implementation, why do I choose this particular one? Because of the one feature which is available, and there are many availables, like there is jQuery data table, there is Bootstrap data table, there is Fabric UI, Fluent UI data table, list view controls. There are many availables. Okay, but this I wanted to highlight because there are different options here. Like for example, you can export to CSV and Excel. So by default you can just click on the download button and it gives an option to CSV and Excel, and you don't need to program it, right? Then yeah, definitely again there might be argument that jQuery data tables also use this. Okay, but if you are building something on React, right, you wanted to get something which is supported by React, right? So that is where the this particular library will come into picture. Then any data table which would have, there is a search functionality, there is sorting functionality, filtering, grouping, and we can choose detail panel also. Like for example, on click of it, a detail panel can be open. Okay, then you can have custom rendering of columns. So it gives us an option wherein you can actually customize the column rendering. Like for example, if the data which you are getting from the database, which would be an array, is just the name, but you wanted to format it before you actually want to render it, right? That is possible, that you can do it, right? And it is editable, which we will see. And then there is event handler for each action. It means that on click of edit, what you wanted to do, you can customize it. You on click of delete icon, what you want to do, you can customize it. You can have write your own code to basically perform the actual CRUD operations as a part of it. Okay, so moving on to see the demo. So this is how the data table looks like. Okay, you can see pardon my CSS, as I said I did not focus on the action part, but yeah, you can see that there are two actions available, like edit, delete. There is an action to edit. So once you click on edit, what happens is a new row gets created here. You can input the name here, right? And you can just say save, and it will add it to the row, right? It will add it to the last of the row because we have pagination, right? So if you see here, it has added, right? And again, as I said, right now everything is being done locally, right? Nothing is being stored in the database. But what you can do is, once you click on the tick mark, which was basically a save icon, you can actually store in the database and reload the data. Okay, and that you can do. Then the good thing is it is editable, right? So it means there is an inline editing capability, and which I think is mostly, many times it has been asked for by the user. Like we need a list view, but we don't want to basically have a different form where I go and edit it. If this is pretty much 5 to 6 columns which you are displaying in the grid, right, or the table, so you can always basically edit it. Okay, and then you can save it. So this is pretty cool, okay, in terms of the editable grid which we have. And then there is search functionality. You can search it based on any columns which you want. You can download CSV or PDF. You can just export the data as a part of CSV, PDF. pagination functionality is available. So most of the list grid view functionality is available. And I would suggest, if you are exploring to build something custom, right, and if you wanted to give similar kind of functionality, this can be pretty useful, right? So let's say the implementation. Okay, the implementation again here would be there would be little bit more to what we have used other libraries. First thing is you import it. Okay, and as I said, this is based on the material UI. Okay, so what as a part of material UI, we just get the table, okay, like list view and everything. So this particular developer, what he did is he used the material UI basic table, and he added some capabilities like editing and everything which we are seeing. So this is, good thing about community, wherein people would, if something is open source, people will use it, plus they would get, an opportunity to extend it also, and then again it can be, open sourced it, right? So considering how do you want to use it, you start with, material table. You specify data, which would be the specific data which you wanted to do. In my case, I'm just using static data, like, name, surname, age, gender. And you specify column, and the column also should be, kind of an array, wherein you tell what should be the title and what should be the field which it should map to the in the data. So this would be the header which we are seeing, right, like name, surname, age, and gender. Okay, and this is the field which it says that once I provide the data array, okay, to this field you need to basically map it to. So the name would map it to the name field, the surname would map it to the surname field, and age would map it to the age field, like, right? And this is pretty useful, wherein, there might be case wherein in the database, or from where we are getting data, it might be having a different name, right? But we wanted to display a different header title. So this gives a flexibility over it, right? And then the icons, like, table icons which we wanted to show. So it just says that when we say table icons, it means it say what all things you wanted to display, right? So this is pretty much from the documentation, where you tell them that, that you need an add icon, you need a checkbox icon, you need a clear icon, delete icon, detail pane icon. So all of this, basically you are passing it, saying that all these options, I mean all these icons I needed as a part of my solution, right? And this is, again, as I said, we can check it from the documentation and use it. And in the options, we specify whether we want export button. Okay, and if it is true, then it will basically add that export to CSV and PDF, right? And this is interesting. Okay, in editable property, okay, what you do is you specify three event handlers, like on row update, on row add, and row delete. Okay, in our case, what we are doing is, once we get a new data, it means basically new data is nothing but just the data about the row. What it does is automatically take care of binding all the JSON objects attributes, the way user has added to the grid, and it gives us that particular item, right? And then that item we can use it. So right now we are just setting the data in the state. Okay, but what we can do is we can always save it in the database. We make an API call and actually save it, right? And same happens with row update. Okay, what we wanted to do, we are getting first the actual index which is getting edited, and then we are updating the new properties or the updated values and setting the state again. Okay, and on row delete, we are using splice to just remove it from the array content. But in real scenario, we might be making an actual API calls, first displaying, maybe for example, a pop-up window saying that do you really want to delete this, and then actually delete it, right? So yes, this were the, few of the components. There might be n number of, other components, and I would like to hear from the audience, if you think there is something which you already know which I have missed, please feel free to add in the comment, and I would really like to explore it. Because being an not a front-end developer, I really look forward to use this kind of UI libraries which are available, which we can, easily use to build our solution, rather than depending on the UI developer to build something. Okay, so moving ahead, references. These are some of the reference links which where I have used this. Okay, this would be pretty SharePoint framework, the npm.js, and the React.js and everything. And again, thank you.